A woman abandoned her disabled daughter and disappeared. 20 years later, the woman was completely shocked by what happened in court. In a small clinic in Monterey, the air was filled with a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. Amelia, exhausted after hours of labor, finally heard the sharp cry of her baby breaking the silence. The doctor, with a tired smile, gently wrapped the newborn in a blanket and presented her to Amelia. "Congratulations, it's a girl." Carlos, the father, approached anxiously, trying to see his daughter for the first time. He lightly touched Amelia's arm, seeking to share the joy of this moment. "What does she look like, Amelia?" he asked, looking from his wife to the baby. Amelia accepted the baby into her arms, her gaze fixed and indecipherable. What should have been a moment of pure happiness quickly became overshadowed by a hint of disappointment. "She is very small, Carlos. Something doesn't seem right," Amelia murmured, her voice trembling slightly as she observed her daughter. Carlos, confused, looked closer. "She is perfect, Amelia. It's normal for babies to be small," he tried to reassure her, but the expression on his face showed that he was beginning to perceive Amelia's concern. "Let's ask the doctor. He will know." The doctor, noticing the couple's tension, approached them again, calmly explaining that the baby appeared to show signs of dwarfism. "We will run some more tests, but she is healthy, which is the most important thing right now," he said, trying to be as comforting as possible. The doctor approached the couple and said, "Carlos, Amelia, Chloe has dwarfism," he began, choosing his words carefully to inform without alarming them. Dwarfism is a condition that results in a significantly below-average height. There are different types, but most people with dwarfism have normal body proportions. Amelia, trying to absorb the information, looked at the doctor with a confused expression. "But what does that mean for her future? Will she have a normal life?" she asked, her voice laden with worry. The doctor nodded, offering an encouraging smile. "Many people with dwarfism lead completely normal and healthy lives. Of course, there are special considerations in terms of health and accessibility that we will need to monitor as she grows, such as the possibility of orthopedic issues. However, with proper medical care, most of these issues can be managed effectively. You don't need to worry." Amelia, still holding Chloe, felt a wave of conflicting emotions. The idea of raising a daughter with special needs frightened her. She looked at Carlos, seeking some comfort, but the words that came out were of uncertainty. "Carlos, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know if I can do it," she confessed, tears beginning to form in her eyes. Carlos, with an expression of support mixed with his own worry, held her hand. "We are in this together, Amelia. We will figure out how to make this work. She is our daughter." Amelia's anguish, however, seemed only to grow with each word of encouragement from Carlos. Inside her, an internal struggle began between the maternal love that was starting to blossom and the overwhelming fear of the unknown. Months passed, and one quiet afternoon in Monterey, Carlos and Amelia discussed the tension that was building within their home. Carlos looked at his wife with a mix of confusion and frustration. "Amelia, she is our daughter. We can't hide her at home as if there is something wrong with her." Amelia, arms crossed, looked outside, avoiding her husband's gaze. Her voice was firm, a tone she used when she did not want to be contradicted. "I just don't feel comfortable with it, Carlos. People will stare, they will talk. I don't want us to be seen as the family that has a different child." Carlos stepped forward, trying to reach Amelia's hand, which she instinctively withdrew. "So what if people think, Amelia? Chloe needs the sun, she needs to see the world, interact with other children. She did nothing wrong to deserve being hidden." "She won't understand, not now, and I will not change my mind about this. I am not ready to deal with the looks and whispers," Amelia replied, her voice rising slightly. "It's easy for you to say to ignore it, but I am the one who will be looked down upon." Carlos sighed, feeling the frustration grow inside him. "Amelia, one day she will realize that we kept her hidden. How do you think she will feel knowing that her own mother was ashamed of her? That is unfair to Chloe. She deserves more from us." The impasse extended, with each word increasing the distance between them. Amelia stood her ground, and Carlos, desolate, began to resign himself to the role of the sole protector of his daughter outside the four walls of their home. "If you don't want to accompany her, I will take her," he finally said, the decision weighing in his voice. "I will take her to the doctors, to the parks. She will know the world, even if I have to present it to her alone." The conversation ended with an uncomfortable silence. Carlos picked up little Chloe, who was playing quietly on the floor, oblivious to the heartache of the adults above her. With a kiss on her forehead, he silently promised to make her feel loved and valued, regardless of her mother's insecurities. Amelia, watching from a distance, felt torn by emotions she could not reconcile, while the sound of Carlos and Chloe's footsteps moving away echoed painfully in her heart. On a cold night in Monterey, Chloe was already asleep, and the silence that hung was the beginning of an emotional storm approaching. Amelia was sitting on the sofa, her trembling hands holding a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. Carlos, noticing the tension in her shoulders, slowly approached. "Amelia, you are very quiet today. Is everything all right?" Carlos asked, his voice full of concern, sitting next to her on the sofa. She let out a long sigh, placing the cup on the table before turning to face him. "Carlos, I have been thinking a lot about our life, about everything we are going through." Her voice faltered a bit, the weight of her words hanging heavily in the air. "What is going through your mind?" Carlos asked, trying to hide the knot of worry that was beginning to form in his stomach. Amelia hesitated, but the decision that had been brewing in her mind was like a flame that could not be extinguished. "I can't do this anymore, Carlos. I can't keep living like this, hiding, feeling ashamed of our daughter. I need more from life. I need something different." The words came out harsher than she intended, but the sincerity in them was palpable. Carlos felt as if a bucket of cold water had been thrown in his face. He looked at Amelia, stunned, her words cutting deeper than any knife could. "Amelia, are you talking about leaving Chloe, us?" The incredulity in his voice was evident, mixed with a growing pain. "I am suffocating here, Carlos. I'm not happy. And it's not fair for Chloe to have a mother who feels this way." Amelia stood up, beginning to pace back and forth, her agitation growing with each step. "I need a change, and I think it's better for everyone if I leave." The discussion that followed was long and torturous. Carlos tried to understand, tried to find a way to keep the family together, but Amelia was resolute. She spoke of her own needs, of her right to happiness, arguments that Carlos understood, but that cut his heart in half. He knew deep down that Amelia's decision was already made, and no words he could say would change her mind. Finally, with tears in his eyes and an indescribable weight in his heart, Carlos slowly nodded. "If this is what you need to be happy, Amelia, I will not stop you. But Chloe, she will always ask for you." The words came out low, each one an admission of his own pain and defeat. Amelia, with tears streaming down her face but with a firm resolve, only nodded, knowing that from that moment on, everyone's lives would change. The decision was made, and there was no turning back. That night would mark the end of their first marriage, leaving behind her daughter and the man she still loved, in search of a new beginning that she hoped would finally lead to the happiness she so desired. Amelia married again, this time to a wealthy man always aspiring to great things in her life and finally achieving her goals. Meanwhile, Carlos continued to take care of Chloe. He did not remarry, living only for his daughter. The little girl was now 7 years old, and every day he marveled at her strength and determination. Despite her dwarfism, Chloe grew up happy, facing the world with insatiable curiosity, largely thanks to the unconditional support and love that Carlos always made sure to give her. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, Carlos and Chloe were at the park. Sitting on a bench, they watched the other children playing. Chloe looked at the children running and then at her own short legs. "Daddy, do you think I can run as fast as they do one day?" she asked, a trace of doubt in her sweet voice. Carlos turned to her, smiling tenderly. "Chloe, you may not run as fast as some of those children, but you have other amazing skills. Remember when you won that drawing contest at school? Everyone has their unique talents, my dear," he said, encouraging her. Chloe smiled, remembering the day her drawing was chosen as the best in the class. "It's true, Daddy, I'm good with colors," she replied, getting excited. "And you always say that the most important thing is to try, right?" "Exactly," Carlos affirmed, giving her a high five. "Always do your best no matter what. That's what really counts. And know that I will always be here to support and help you no matter what happens." On another occasion, while preparing for Chloe's medical appointment, Carlos noticed that she was a little anxious. "Daddy, what if the other doctors are like the one who wasn't nice to me?" Chloe questioned, remembering a previous, less pleasant experience. Carlos knelt to be at Chloe's level, looking into her eyes with gentle seriousness. "Chloe, I will be with you every step of the way. If anyone does not treat you with the respect you deserve, they will have to deal with me," he said, making a funny face that made Chloe laugh. "Never be afraid to say how you feel or to ask for help. You are strong and brave, and I am so proud of you." These conversations between Carlos and Chloe were not just moments of teaching, but also bonds of love and trust that strengthened with each word of encouragement and each gesture of support. Carlos knew that the path would not be easy for Chloe, but he was determined to do everything in his power to ensure that his daughter had all the opportunities to shine, loving her exactly as she was. Chloe grew up and was now 22 years old. She carefully adjusted her blazer before entering the imposing building that housed Lily Baker's company. She took a deep breath, remembering her father's encouraging words. She was there to compete for a position in the graphic design department and was determined to show her worth. It did not take long for Lily Baker to appear. She was an imposing figure with a presence that filled the room. "Chloe Clark," Lily called with a quick and evaluative look. "Yes, that's me. Nice to meet you, Miss Baker." Chloe extended her hand, which Lily briefly shook. "Let's go to my office. Tell me more about your experience with graphic design," said Lily, leading the way to a modern and well-lit office. Chloe followed her, trying not to be intimidated by Lily's critical gaze. Sitting face to face, Lily began to browse through Chloe's portfolio. "I see that you have a good eye for colors and composition, but tell me, how do you handle tight deadlines and criticism?" Her voice was direct, almost challenging. Chloe, keeping her calm, replied, "I believe that constructive feedback is essential for personal and professional growth. As for deadlines, I organize myself and prioritize tasks to ensure that everything is delivered on time." Lily seemed slightly impressed, but her expression was still unreadable. "And what about teamwork? This position requires a lot of collaboration." "Working in a team is one of my strengths," Chloe explained. "I believe that the best ideas come from collaboration and sharing different perspectives." The interview continued with more technical questions and some scenario simulations. Chloe strove to show her ability and adaptability, despite feeling the weight of Lily's judgment. Finally, Lily closed the portfolio and looked Chloe directly in the eyes. "Well, Chloe, you definitely have talent. You can start working, you're hired." Chloe thanked her and left the office with a mixture of relief and anxiety. She had given her best, but she knew that the final decision was in Lily's hands. As she walked out of the building, she felt proud of having faced one of the biggest challenges of her career so far. Lily Baker was an imposing figure at the headquarters of her company in Monterey. As a manager, she was known for her authoritarian stance and quick decisions, which propelled the company to achieve its ambitious goals. However, this efficiency came at a cost. Lily had a reputation for being extremely demanding and often arrogant with her employees, expecting a dedication that frequently exceeded reasonable limits. In a typical team meeting, Lily looked coldly at the reports in front of her. "These numbers are unacceptable," she began, her voice filled with disdain. "You have more than enough resources to achieve the goals we set. If you can't do that, maybe I need to find people who can." Her subordinates lowered their heads, avoiding her incisive gaze. In her office, it was common to hear Lily on the phone, speaking curtly with suppliers and partners. "I'm not interested in excuses, only in results. If you cannot provide what you promised, I will find someone who can," she said, without a hint of patience or understanding for others' circumstances. For Lily, business was a battlefield, and she did not tolerate weaknesses. The company's employees often shared stories of her disdainful behavior. On one occasion, a young assistant made a minor mistake in a presentation. Lily scolded her in front of the entire team. "This mistake is childish. If you want to act like a child, maybe this is not the place for you." Public humiliation was a common tactic in her management arsenal. Despite her effectiveness in driving the company to record profits, the work environment under her leadership was tense and feared. Conversations in the corridors were often whispers about the fear of being the next target of her wrath. The employees said she was relentless and that working with her was like walking through a minefield. However, it was not only with subordinates that Lily maintained this rigid stance. Even in meetings with other executives or potential investors, she maintained an air of superiority that often bordered on arrogance. "If you are not ready to invest at the level my company deserves, then I suggest you look for smaller opportunities that match your limited aspirations," she said in a meeting, dismissing a group of hesitant investors with a disdainful wave of her hand. Lily was undoubtedly an effective leader in terms of financial results, but her leadership style left a trail of resentment and dissatisfaction. For her, the ends always justified the means, and this philosophy was reflected not only in how she ran her company, but also in how she treated everyone around her. On a sunny afternoon at the luxurious residence in Monterey, Lily Baker and her mother Amelia enjoyed a moment of tranquility in the elegant garden of the house. Both were dressed in designer clothes that complemented their impeccable style. While enjoying herbal tea, the conversation flowed smoothly, marked by laughter and comments on recent social events. Amelia had married Lily's father after her divorce from Carlos. Her second husband was a great businessman and traveled internationally a lot. Their daughter spent more time with her mother, and she cherished the company of the young woman of 20 years. Amelia observed Lily with admiration as she described her latest achievements at the company. "Lily, dear, you have no idea how proud I am of you. Everything you do is so perfect. You are the daughter I always dreamed of having," said Amelia, her smile radiating pride. Lily, used to compliments, smiled gracefully and thanked her. "Thank you, Mother. I know I have great responsibility seeing everything Father built. I'm just trying to carry our legacy forward," she replied, gently touching Amelia's hand. Amelia continued, each word laden with genuine admiration. "And it's not just at work, Lily. Your elegance, your way of dressing, of speaking, everything about you is so refined. Sometimes I can't believe how lucky I am to have a daughter like you." Lily tilted her head, accepting the praise. "It's all thanks to you, Mother. You taught me about fashion, about how to be a real woman in the business world. Everything I am, I owe to your lessons," she said, reinforcing the bond between them. As they conversed, Amelia began to recall events and parties they had attended together, highlighting how Lily always captured everyone's attention. "I remember the last charity event we attended. You were stunning in that red dress, and everyone wanted to know who the beautiful young woman by my side was. It was such a special moment for me," Amelia commented, her gaze distant as she relived the memory. The conversation between mother and daughter reflected the depth of their relationship, based on mutual admiration and shared values of success and personal presentation. To Amelia, Lily was more than just a daughter. She was a symbol of everything Amelia valued and aspired to be. Meanwhile, Chloe was focused on her computer, working on a graphic design project, when Lily Baker entered the room with an air of authority that left a trail of tension. The murmured conversation ceased as all eyes turned to her. Chloe, sensing the change in atmosphere, braced herself for what was to come. "Chloe, please come here. We need to discuss your latest project," Lily called out loudly, ensuring everyone heard. Chloe approached, holding the printout of the design she had created. She noticed Lily's critical gaze as she neared. "Is this what you call acceptable work?" Lily held the design at eye level, then looked at Chloe, pausing dramatically before continuing. "Maybe I should have expected this level of work from someone who has to strive to achieve the minimum here," she said, her voice laced with double meaning, insinuating Chloe's stature. Chloe felt her face flush with humiliation, but the anger growing inside her was stronger than the shame. "Miss Baker, my work should be evaluated based on its quality, not comments about my height. This is unacceptable," Chloe replied, her voice firm despite the tremor of emotion. Lily laughed derisively, looking around to see if others shared her amusement. "Oh, please, Chloe, don't be so sensitive. I'm just joking. But seriously, you need to understand that this place has standards. Maybe someone of your condition would find it difficult to meet them." Chloe looked around, seeing the discomfort on her colleagues' faces as they avoided her gaze. "This is not a joke. It is discrimination," Chloe declared, feeling increasingly determined. "I will not accept this, and it should not be expected that any of us do. I will fight for my rights and ensure that no one else has to endure this kind of treatment." Lily shrugged, arrogance emanating from her. "Do what you think is best, Chloe, but remember this is my world and people here play by my rules," she said, turning her back on Chloe and leaving the room, a heavy silence hanging in the air. Chloe, trembling with anger and determination, returned to her desk. She knew what she needed to do. Although confronting Lily might have consequences, she would not let fear stop her. That humiliation was not just a personal attack. It was a sign that something much bigger needed to change in the company's culture. Lily Baker arrived home still seething with anger after the confrontation with Chloe at the office. Upon entering, she threw her keys onto the entry table with enough force to make a noise that echoed through the spacious living room. Her mother, Amelia, was sitting on a luxurious sofa, flipping through a fashion magazine. "Mom, you won't believe what happened at the office today," Lily began, her tone laden with indignation and frustration. Amelia set the magazine aside, her expression immediately concerned with her daughter's state. "That employee, the short one, decided she could stand up to me. Can you believe it? She accused me of discrimination just because I made a comment about her work." Lily paced back and forth, clearly disturbed by the memory of the event. Amelia laughed lightly, trying to downplay the situation. "Oh dear, she's just an employee and you are the owner of the company. Sometimes these people forget their place, don't worry about it." Lily stopped pacing and looked at her mother, seeking some comfort in her words. "I know, Mom, but what if she decides to take it further? What if she makes a formal complaint? It could tarnish the company's reputation." Amelia stood up, approaching Lily with a reassuring smile. "Lily, we are one of the richest and most powerful families in Monterey. We won't let a small complaint from any employee affect us. You have the best lawyers at your disposal, and I'm here. Nothing will happen." Lily, still not fully convinced but slightly relieved by her mother's words, nodded slowly. "You are right, Mum. I shouldn't worry about this. It is just an empty threat." Amelia, seeing her daughter beginning to calm down, embraced her. "That's right, dear. We are strong and we won't let anything or anyone bring us down. Forget this story and focus on what really matters, your success and that of the company." Lily took a deep breath, allowing her mother's confidence to envelop her. "Thank you, Mom. I don't know what I would do without you." With Amelia's unconditional support, Lily felt ready to face any challenge that came her way, reaffirming her belief that her position and power would protect her from any repercussions. When Chloe arrived home that night, she found her father, Carlos, preparing dinner in the kitchen. He immediately noticed Chloe's somber expression as she walked through the door. "Chloe, what happened? You look worried," Carlos said, turning off the stove and giving his full attention to his daughter. Taking a deep breath, Chloe began to recount everything that happened at work, from Lily's derogatory comments to the confrontation that followed. "Dad, she called me Shorty in front of everyone. It was humiliating, and I told her that it was discrimination and that I would fight for my rights." Carlos listened attentively, his face hardening with each word Chloe said. When she finished, he was visibly upset, but his voice remained calm and firm. "Chloe, you did the right thing. No one has the right to treat you that way, no matter who they are. You have my full support to seek justice. But Dad, what if it makes things worse for me? What if I can't find another job?" Chloe expressed her concerns, the fear of retaliation shining in her eyes. Carlos approached, placing his hands on Chloe's shoulders and looking directly into her eyes. "You are standing up for your rights, my dear. Remember, I will always be here to support you no matter what happens." Encouraged by her father's words, Chloe felt a new wave of determination flow through her. "You are right, Dad. I can't let this go. I will speak to a lawyer tomorrow and see what my options are." Carlos nodded, proud of his daughter's courage. "That's right, Chloe. We will do whatever it takes. I will be by your side every step of the way." Together, father and daughter shared a moment of unity and resolve, ready to face any challenge that lay ahead. As they turned their attention to dinner, the conversation shifted to planning their next steps, further strengthening their alliance in the pursuit of justice. The day of the trial arrived, and the courtroom atmosphere was thick with the tension of the imminent legal confrontation. Amelia and Lily Baker arrived together, both impeccably dressed, reflecting the seriousness of the day. On the other hand, Carlos accompanied Chloe, whose determined posture contrasted with the vulnerability imposed by the situation. As they entered the courtroom, Carlos and Amelia exchanged a glance that carried years of untold stories and complicated feelings. Amelia felt a pang in her chest upon seeing Carlos after so many years. His presence brought back memories she had tried to bury. Her gaze, however, was inevitably drawn to Chloe. Now a young woman facing challenges Amelia never had the courage to support her through. Remorse began to settle in her heart as she watched Chloe, recognizing the traits she once wished to forget. Lily noticed her mother's distraction and leaned in to whisper, "Mum, are you okay? You look a bit pale." Amelia forced a smile and quickly replied, "It's all right, dear. I'm just a bit anxious about this whole process." As the judge called the session to order, Amelia wrestled with her internal thoughts. She began reflecting on all the choices, thinking, "No one knows about my first daughter, and even less that she has dwarfism." Amelia felt the weight of her secret like a stone in her stomach. As the proceedings advanced, Amelia found herself lost in a sea of regret and questioning. How could I let things come to this point? How could I abandon my own daughter? The internal battle was almost unbearable. She looked at Chloe, seeing in her the strength and resilience she lacked in herself, and questioned the love and protection she owed her from the beginning. The trial continued, but for Amelia the real reflection had only just begun, marking the start of a new journey in her life. In the courtroom, the atmosphere was charged with expectation as the defense and prosecution attorneys prepared to present their arguments. Chloe's attorney began by detailing the various instances where Lily had directed derogatory and discriminatory comments at Chloe, citing specific dates and witnesses who confirmed the improper conduct. Lily's attorneys tried to minimize the damage, claiming misunderstandings and a lack of concrete evidence for the discrimination allegations. They portrayed Lily as a strict but fair leader who might have been misinterpreted by Chloe and other employees. However, the words rang hollow for Amelia, who knew her daughter's true nature. Internally, Amelia began to question her own choices. How could I not see the kind of person Lily has become? How could I have failed so deeply with Chloe, not just by abandoning her, but also by ignoring the difficulties she faced because of me? The guilt consumed her, with each word from Chloe's attorney unearthing more remorse from her conscience. Amelia reflected on the contrast between her two daughters. Chloe, despite all the obstacles and rejections, showed admirable resilience and dignity. Lily, blessed with all the privileges and support, chose a path of arrogance and disdain for others. Could the luxury and wealth Lily had deprived her of the ability to empathize and show compassion? Amelia pondered. Amelia looked at her eldest daughter, thinking, Chloe is so brave, facing injustices that should never have been part of her life. I abandoned this child, left her to face the world without a mother's love and support. And now I see the incredible woman she has become, despite my absence. The tension in the courtroom had reached its peak when the judge finally returned to the room after a long period of deliberation. The judge began to speak. After careful consideration of the evidence presented and the testimonies heard, this court concludes that the defendant, Lily Baker, acted in a discriminatory manner against the plaintiff, Chloe Clark, based on her disability. Therefore, it is ordered that the defendant pay compensation for moral damages to the plaintiff. The silence that followed was palpable. Lily was stunned, unable to believe what she had just heard. She turned to her mother, her face a mask of incredulity and fear. "Mum, what are we going to do? This will ruin the company's reputation, my reputation." Amelia, struggling to find the right words, could only whisper, "We will sort this out, dear. We will talk to the lawyers, see what can be done." On Chloe's side, Carlos whispered, "You did the right thing, Chloe. I am so proud of you." Chloe, with tears in her eyes, only nodded, feeling a complex mix of relief and sadness. She knew this victory was not just hers, but for all those who had been underestimated and mistreated as she had been. After the verdict in court, Lily and Amelia Baker returned to their luxurious home, the silence between them almost palpable. Lily paced back and forth in the spacious living room. "I don't really care about this compensation," said Lily, breaking the silence with a voice filled with disdain. "It's just money. What really bothers me is how this will affect my image and the company's image." Amelia, who had spent the entire trial reflecting on her own failures as a mother and the consequences of her actions, looked at Lily with a serious expression. "Lily, maybe it's time for you to think less about image and more about what is right. You should go apologize to Chloe." Lily stopped, turning to face her mother with an expression of shock and disbelief. "Apologize to that shorty, Mum? You can't be serious. She's just an employee and I am the director of the company. That would be lowering myself too much." Amelia sighed, the sadness and regret still weighing heavily on her heart. "Lily, it's not about lowering yourself. It's about respect. Chloe is a person and what you did was wrong. She deserves to be treated with dignity, regardless of her physical condition." Lily crossed her arms, her expression hardening even more. "Mom, you are being ridiculous. This is just political correctness gone mad. I am the victim here, being penalized for being a firm leader." Amelia observed Lily, realizing how much her daughter still had to learn. She wanted to believe that Lily would change, but her daughter's arrogant words and inflexible attitude only reinforced her doubts. "Lily, I hope you will understand the gravity of your actions and their impact on the people around you one day. It's not just about being a leader, but about how you lead and the respect you show for others." Frustrated and unable to grasp her mother's perspective, Lily left the room, leaving Amelia alone with her thoughts. Amelia felt increasingly convinced that in some way she needed to continue influencing her daughter, hoping that eventually Lily would recognize the importance of treating everyone with equality and respect. The night was long and restless for Amelia. She tossed and turned in bed, unable to find a comfortable position, each thought about the trial and her own past choices tormenting her like ghosts in the dark. The image of Chloe in court, firm and dignified, contrasted sharply with Lily's disdainful attitude, and the difference between her two daughters weighed heavily on her heart. Every time she closed her eyes, Amelia saw Chloe looking at her with a mix of strength and vulnerability. The judge's harsh words echoed in her mind, and the look of pain in Chloe's eyes during the trial resonated in her conscience. It was not just remorse, it was a deep understanding that she had failed her daughter in a way that words could hardly express. Before dawn, Amelia made a decision. She could no longer live with this weight. She got up, dressed quickly, and without breakfast drove to Carlos's house. During the drive, her heart raced and her mind rehearsed what she would say. She knew that words would be insufficient, but she had to start somewhere. Arriving at Carlos's house, Amelia parked the car and took several deep breaths before getting out. The day had barely broken, and the morning quiet was almost palpable. She walked up to the front door and, with trembling hands, rang the doorbell. Carlos opened the door after a few seconds that seemed like an eternity to Amelia. His face expressed surprise and caution at seeing her. "Amelia, what are you doing here at this hour?" His voice was careful, almost as if he feared that her mere presence could trigger old conflicts. "I'm sorry to come so early, Carlos, but I needed to talk to you, to Chloe. I need to apologize," Amelia began, her voice faltering as she struggled to maintain composure. The words seemed inadequate, but it was all she had. Carlos, still in shock from the unexpected visit, stepped back, allowing her to enter. His expression was a mix of incredulity and cautious hope, perhaps curious to see how far this new revelation from Amelia might lead. Amelia, with teary eyes and a trembling voice, faced Carlos and pleaded in an almost desperate tone, "Please, Carlos, I need to talk to Chloe. I need to try to make things right, even if it's just a little." Carlos, however, remained firm, his gaze reflecting a mixture of protection and apprehension. "Amelia, I don't think it's a good idea right now. Chloe is very shaken by everything that happened. She needs space." Before Amelia could insist further, the sound of soft footsteps came from the hallway. Chloe appeared at the entrance to the living room, surprised and cautious to see her mother there. "What are you doing here?" Her voice carried a mix of curiosity and resentment as her eyes studied Amelia, trying to understand her intentions. Amelia attempted to step closer to Chloe, her words stumbling over one another. "Chloe, I saw you in court. I realized how much I messed up, how much I abandoned you. I'm here because I need you to know that I'm truly sorry for everything." Chloe listened, her expression shifting gradually from impassiveness to a mask of pain and anger. "You did see me, yes. You recognized your own daughter and still chose to pretend. You saw the daughter you abandoned facing the world alone. How dare you come here now and ask for forgiveness?" Chloe's words were sharp, each one loaded with years of repressed pain. "I'm truly sorry, Chloe. I know apologies can't change the past, but I'm here, ready to face the consequences and do whatever I can to support you from now on," Amelia pleaded, tears now streaming freely down her face. Chloe shook her head, the decision clear in her eyes. "No, I do not accept your apologies. You can't just show up and expect everything to be okay. Please leave." Her voice was firm, leaving no room for arguments. Defeated and heartbroken, Amelia nodded slowly. She gave one last look at Chloe, memorizing the image of her strong and determined daughter before turning and leaving the house. As she walked back to her car, tears blurred her vision, each step heavy with the weight of her choices, and the lost love that now seemed irretrievable. Amelia arrived home still shaken, silent tears staining her face as she tried to compose herself. Lily, who was in the living room flipping through a magazine, looked up as she heard the door close more forcefully than usual. She immediately noticed her mother's emotional state. "Why are you crying? What happened?" Lily asked, a hint of concern in her voice, though she maintained an emotional distance, more curious about the incident than genuinely worried about Amelia's well-being. Amelia wiped the tears with the back of her hand before responding. "I went to apologize to Chloe," she said, her voice still trembling from the emotion of the encounter. Lily frowned, clearly confused and somewhat irritated. "Why would you do that? That Shorty doesn't deserve anything from us, especially after all she caused." The derogatory word slipped from her mouth with disdain, as if it was something trivial. Amelia felt a wave of indignation hearing Lily refer to Chloe in that manner. She turned, facing Lily with a firmness she rarely displayed. "Don't speak of my daughter that way. Chloe is your sister and deserves respect. I should have done this a long time ago. Apologizing was the right thing to do, and it's time for you to start understanding that." Lily recoiled, shocked not only by the revelation but also by her mother's reprimand. "My sister? How is that possible? You never mentioned—" Her words trailed off, the shock and confusion on her face reflecting the magnitude of the revelation. "Yes, she is your sister, and I abandoned her when she needed me most," Amelia continued, the words painful but necessary. "I made many mistakes, Lily, but ignoring what Chloe went through because of my choices won't be another one of them. It's time for us to change, for you to learn to respect people regardless of their differences." Lily remained silent, processing the news. The tension between mother and daughter was palpable, each grappling with their own revelations and how this would change the dynamics of their lives from that moment forward. Lily stared at Amelia, her face contorted in a mix of disbelief and anger. "I can't believe you're saying this. How can this be true? How could you never have talked about it before?" Lily demanded, her voice raised in challenge and confusion. Amelia, summoning all her courage, responded with forced calm, trying to keep the situation as controlled as possible. "Chloe is the result of my first marriage with Carlos. I abandoned her when she was a child out of shame for her condition." Lily, still in shock from the revelation, let slip a venomous question, reflecting her distorted and prejudiced view. "How could you bring a being like that into the world?" The words came out laden with disdain, revealing not just her surprise but also her deep-seated prejudice. Amelia felt as if she had been physically struck by her daughter's words. "Lily, that being, as you say, is my daughter, your sister. She is a human being with just as much right to be in this world as you. I am ashamed and saddened to see that you think this way." Amelia's response made Lily hesitate for a moment, the reality of her own words and their impact beginning to sink in. She looked at her mother, searching for any sign of flaw or exaggeration, but found only a sad determination in Amelia's eyes. "Lily, I see now how much I have failed you in not teaching you to respect and value all human beings regardless of their differences," Amelia continued, her voice choked with emotion. "But it is not too late to change. I hope you reflect on your words and the kind of person you want to be." Lily remained silent, her mother's words echoing in her mind. The revelation of a sister she had never known she had, and her reaction to it, began to trigger a deep introspection. Meanwhile, Carlos called his daughter to talk. "Chloe, I know what your mother did was painful and I understand your anger," Carlos began, choosing his words carefully. "But I think you were very harsh with her. Amelia was very young and immature when everything happened. We all make mistakes and everyone deserves a chance at redemption." Chloe looked at her father, a mix of frustration and confusion in her eyes. "Dad, how can I just forgive someone who abandoned me? How can I trust her again?" Her voice trembled slightly, revealing the depth of her pain. Carlos approached and sat beside her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, Chloe. It means letting go of the anger that can poison you from within. Your mother made a mistake, yes, but she is also carrying the weight of those mistakes. Giving her a second chance might be more for you than for her." Chloe took a deep breath, pondering her father's words. After a few minutes of silence, Carlos picked up his phone and dialed Amelia's number. When she answered, her voice was cautious but hopeful. "Amelia, it's Carlos. Chloe has been thinking about everything that happened, and she has decided she wants to try to talk again. Can we arrange a meeting in a neutral place, perhaps a restaurant? Amelia, on the other end of the line, felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Of course, Carlos, that would be great. I really want to try to make things right this time. In a cozy, dimly lit restaurant with an atmosphere that favored intimate conversations, Chloe and Amelia sat facing each other, both clearly nervous but open to dialogue. Chloe took the initiative, breathing deeply before speaking. Mum, I've thought a lot about what Dad said. I understand that you were young and had your own fears and uncertainties. I am willing to try to understand and forgive, she said, her words carefully chosen to avoid reopening old wounds. Amelia felt a tightness in her chest upon hearing Chloe. Thank you, Chloe. Not a day goes by that I don't regret the choices I made. I really want to do everything differently now. I want to be a part of your life if you will allow me, Amelia said, her voice choked with emotion. Seizing the moment of openness, Amelia continued, Actually, there is a party tonight, a gathering with some old friends and new business partners. I would really like you to accompany me, Chloe. It would be a way for us to start rebuilding our relationship, and I would love to introduce you to everyone as my daughter. Chloe hesitated, the surprise evident on her face. The idea of jumping so quickly into a social event with Amelia was intimidating, but something inside her was curious to see this new side of her mother, the side that wanted to make things right. All right, I'll go. It will be interesting, Chloe agreed, a mix of caution and curiosity in her voice. Both women smiled, a shared sense of relief filling the space between them. It was just a small step towards healing, but a significant one. The party was in full swing, with the buzz of animated conversations and soft music in the background, when Amelia decided it was the right moment to make her announcement. She gently approached the microphone and said, Good evening, everyone, Amelia began, her voice steady despite the evident nervousness. I would like to take this opportunity to share something very personal with you all, something that has been a part of my life for many years but that few of you know about. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to her, curious and attentive. She continued, Many years ago I had a daughter in my first marriage. Due to life circumstances and choices I made, we ended up being separated. But despite everything, she grew up to be an incredibly strong and resilient woman. I am very proud of the woman she has become. Amelia's expression was one of admiration and respect, and a genuine emotion shone through her words. Chloe, please come here with me, Amelia called, extending her hand toward Chloe, who was sitting discreetly at a nearby table. Chloe stood up, her heart pounding as she walked to the stage under the surprised and curious gazes of the guests. When Chloe joined Amelia on the stage, there was a murmur of surprise and some shocked expressions among the guests. Amelia looked at Chloe, her eyes shining with emotion. This is Chloe, my daughter. She is a person of incredible strength and courage, someone who has faced challenges many of us could never imagine, and I couldn't be more proud of her. Amelia then turned to face Chloe directly, holding her hands. I love you, Chloe, and I want everyone to know how wonderful you are. The room erupted in applause, a warm sound of support and admiration filling the space. Chloe, emotional and a bit overwhelmed, smiled shyly, grateful for the recognition and her mother's public display of love. After Amelia's heartfelt speech, Lily felt a whirlwind of conflicting emotions and approached her sister. Chloe, I am sorry for everything. I was wrong, so wrong. You didn't deserve any of that, she said, her voice trembling, indicating her sincerity. Chloe, surprised by the approach and vulnerability of Lily, took a moment to process the words. Lily, I appreciate your apology. It means a lot to me, Chloe responded, her reply cautious but open. The guests observed the silent exchange between the two sisters, feeling the tension gradually dissipate. Amelia, watching closely, felt a mix of relief and hope, seeing her daughters begin to build bridges where there had once been only walls. Lily and Chloe continued talking after the apology. Although they knew rebuilding their relationship would take time, the first step taken by Lily that night opened a path to a future of understanding and perhaps in time friendship. They agreed to meet again, starting slowly, sharing more about their lives and rebuilding the lost trust. The family's story, though marked by mistakes and regrets, closed the night on a note of optimism. Amelia, Chloe, and Lily found within themselves the strength to face the past and the courage to shape a different future. The party not only celebrated achievements and resilience, but also marked the beginning of a new chapter for all, full of possibilities for growth, forgiveness, and above all, reinforced family unity. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing you touching stories almost every day. Don't miss the next surprising narrative that's about to appear on your screen. We sincerely appreciate having you here with us. Now you can click on the links appearing on the screen right now. We have a special selection just for you, full of valuable stories and guaranteed entertainment. See you there.
My wallet was in your bag. You thief! My sister-in-law shouted at me, glaring as she rummaged through her bag. This happened during dinner at my fiancé's parents' house, right after we had set a date for our wedding. Among the attendees, including both our families, was my sister-in-law, whom I always found difficult. I had already caught my sister-in-law's eye when I visited my family home recently to announce my engagement. Since then, she frequently invited me out for meals, always saying things like, "Can you cover for me today? I'm out of change." Or, "I forgot my wallet, lend me some money," never paying for her own meals. I initially wanted to get along with Kelly, but as days passed, my suspicion grew, and I tried to avoid her as much as possible. Yet there I was, being accused of theft in front of my fiancé and our relatives. My mind going blank. The wallet my sister-in-law held was indeed hers. But I swear I did not steal it. Sister, please calm down. What, you're going to make excuses? Expect a lawsuit for the theft, she exclaimed without giving me a chance to speak, continuing her tirade excitedly. Watching her, I regained my composure and couldn't help but let out a laugh, which even made the other relatives start laughing, leaving Kelly dumbfounded. What's so funny? Eventually, as her face turned bright red with anger, I decided to tell her the truth. It's laughable, the things you're saying, sister. My name is Kelly. I'm a 28-year-old office worker, recently engaged to Nick, a man 2 years my senior and my supervisor at work. Nick has been looking after me since I joined the company, earning my trust with his generous nature and sincere attention to his subordinates. He made a great first impression as a trustworthy supervisor who listens sincerely to his subordinates and shows a genuine interest in their concerns. As we interacted daily, we not only discussed work but also shared personal stories, gradually developing mutual affection. Our similar ages and common interests likely contributed to the connection. After a few years of dating at work, we decided to get married and planned to first inform our parents. When we visited my family home, my parents and sister wholeheartedly blessed our union. My sister Gina, who is 7 years older than me, is already married and lives near our family home with her husband and their 2 children. Due to a chronic illness since childhood, she now works from home as a translator. She finished her work early today to meet us, knowing I was coming to visit. Kelly, truly congratulations. Nick, please take good care of my sister. Gina smiled at me and Nick. I felt as happy as if the compliments were for me, when Nick later remarked, "Your sister is wonderful." Nick also has a sister, right? I'm looking forward to meeting her. When I told him this, Nick showed a complicated expression for some reason. I'm glad you think so. But, well, my sister can be a bit selfish and vain. I worry she might trouble you, Nick responded hesitantly, seeming like he didn't want me to meet his sister too much. As for me, since she was going to be my sister-in-law, I wanted to get along with her. However, I couldn't have imagined at that time how much trouble this sister-in-law would cause me. Later, when we visited Nick's family home, his parents warmly welcomed us. It's been a while, Kelly. Thanks for coming. My mother-in-law greeted me casually, father-in-law smiling softly. Although it was my first time inside their home, I had spoken with Nick's parents at their doorstep before, maintaining a good relationship. This was the first time I had entered their house. So in addition to announcing our marriage, I was nervous about meeting my sister-in-law for the first time. However, it seemed that she was not home at the moment. While I felt disappointed, Nick seemed visibly relieved. Perhaps he really didn't want me to meet his sister. Keeping her in the back of my mind, the conversation with his kind parents flowed well, and my nerves quickly eased, allowing us to have a pleasant time. Nick's parents were genuinely delighted about our marriage, which reassured me as we started to prepare to leave. Just as we were being seen off by his parents and putting on our shoes at the entrance, the front door suddenly opened from the outside, and a woman's voice saying, "I'm home," announced the arrival of a woman entering the house. Seeing her, Nick muttered, "Oh, it's Nick. What, you're leaving already? Stay a bit longer now that I'm back," the woman, standing in the doorway, said. She was a woman in her mid-30s, similar in age to my sister Gina but with a stronger, more assertive presence and heavier makeup. This was Lauren, Nick's sister. According to Nick, Lauren was divorced with no children. "Nice to meet you, I'm Kelly, and I'm engaged to Nick. We came to greet you today." I introduced myself to Lauren. She replied nonchalantly. As I looked up, Lauren appraised me with evaluating eyes, then smirked and asked, "So, where did you meet Nick?" "Hey, Lauren, it's her first time meeting you. Don't start with such questions," Nick interjected, annoyed. Ignoring him, Lauren bombarded me with more questions like, "How much do you earn? You look well off. Do you work at the same company as Nick?" Well. As I was overwhelmed and unable to respond, Nick stepped in and scolded her. "Enough already, you're troubling Kelly. We're leaving, so please move." Nick pulled me away from Lauren, who glared at him as if he was obstructing her. "What, we're going to be sisters-in-law, so I should be able to talk a little, right? Oh, let's exchange contact information while we're at it," Lauren said as she took out her smartphone, leaving me bewildered but unable to refuse since we would be family. I reluctantly gave her my contact details, wondering if that was the right decision. "Don't bother Kelly too much, Lauren," my mother-in-law cautioned. But Lauren entered the house without seeming to care. I finally understood why Nick had seemed so troubled whenever Lauren was mentioned. Unlike my kind and intelligent sister Gina, Lauren was forceful and didn't listen to others. The complete opposite of what I knew as a sister. Feeling uncertain about getting along with her in the future, I still wanted to maintain a good relationship with my in-laws. So I planned to respond diligently whenever Lauren contacted me. The day after we exchanged contact information, Lauren began to frequently email me. During our email exchanges, we discovered that our workplaces were close by, and one day, she invited me to lunch during work break. Thinking there was no reason to refuse, I agreed. However, as we finished our meal and went to pay, Lauren suddenly exclaimed as if she had realized something. "What's wrong?" "Sorry, Kelly, I just realized I don't have any small change. Could you cover for me? I'll pay you back later," she casually requested while looking into her purse. I found her behavior suspicious but thought it was just the cost. of a single meal and paid for her that day. But on another day, oh dear, I forgot my wallet. Kelly, can you pay for me again? She said. Lauren began to frequently invite me to lunch, always finding reasons to have me pay for her meal. When I asked for repayment later, the cost of lunch isn't much, is it? Let's not sweat the small stuff. She would dismiss it, refusing to take it seriously. Although the cost of one lunch wasn't much, her frequent invitations were increasingly burdening me financially. Months passed, and not once did Lauren return the money I had covered. My distrust towards her grew daily, and I realized it was best to avoid her. Now, I declined her lunch invitations with various excuses, and keep my email responses to a necessary minimum. Despite trying to minimize contact, one day after work as I was leaving the company with Nick, I heard a familiar voice calling my name. Turning toward the voice, there was Lauren, having waited for me to finish work. Leaving work together as a couple, huh? Must be nice, she said sarcastically, causing Nick to frown. What do you want, sis? With a smile, Lauren said, actually, I have dinner plans with friends tonight. But I'm a bit short on cash. Kelly, could you lend me some? Her actions, as if she had gotten used to asking for money, really upset me. I must decline. You haven't even returned the money I lent you before. As soon as I firmly rejected her, Lauren became sullen. Why are you being so cold? We're family, right? A family should be able to lend each other money. Besides, you earn more than me, she said, although I had never discussed my salary with her. She probably figured it out since I work at the same company as Nick. Before I could respond, Nick reprimanded her. Even in a family, we shouldn't borrow money like this. Instead of going to dinner, you should first pay back Kelly. If you can't pay her back right now, please just go home. Nick, who are you talking to like that? I'm your sister. Are you defending a stranger over your own sister? Despite just calling us family, now she looked at me as if I were a stranger. Moreover, in today's world, a woman needs to have money. By not lending me some, you're just admitting you're poor. She argued nonsensically, which even made Nick lose his temper. What you're saying is nonsensical. Kelly, let's go. Don't take her words seriously. Without wanting to engage further, we pretended not to know her and left the scene. As we did, colleagues from our company glanced over, making us the center of attention. Wait a minute, don't go. Lauren shouted behind us, but we did not look back. Occasionally, Lauren still contacted me. But with the wedding preparations keeping me busy, I only responded superficially. Of course, I declined her dinner invitations. And since the incident in front of the company, I hadn't met her. As the wedding day approached, a family dinner was organized at Nick's parents' home. Upon arriving, both our parents and my sister also arrived. Although Lauren was present and greeted everyone, she surprisingly said nothing to me, which felt eerie amidst the festive mood. The dinner ended in a cheerful atmosphere, everyone chatting happily. Then, returning from the restroom, Lauren suddenly started screaming. My wallet! It's gone! Where is it? She claimed her wallet, which should have been in her bag, was missing. Calm down, isn't it just left in your room, suggested my mother-in-law. Though Lauren wasn't listening. I definitely put it in my bag. Oh, I see, you must have stolen it, she accused me, grabbing my nearby bag to search it. To her surprise, she pulled out a wallet, the same wallet I had seen several times before, belonging to Lauren. See, just as I said, my wallet was in your bag. Triumphantly, she confronted me. You stole it while I was in the restroom, didn't you? Acting all innocent but such a terrible person. I oppose you marrying my brother. Lauren, please calm down. Planning to make excuses? What you did is theft, be prepared for a lawsuit. Before I could respond, she continued shouting excitedly. I couldn't endure it any longer and burst into laughter. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. As I started laughing, both my parents and Nick joined in, laughing out loud. Faced with this scene, Lauren was stunned, then turned red with anger. What? What's so funny? It's laughable, the things you're saying, Lauren. Huh? The next person to speak to Lauren, who seemed not to understand the situation, was my sister Gina sitting next to me. That's not her bag. It's mine. Upon hearing this, Lauren's face froze. What? Lauren, sweating on her face. I asked, partly to confirm. You think my sister would steal your wallet? That's impossible, right? Lauren had been looking for a chance to accuse me. Anticipating she might pull something, I hadn't brought my bag to the dinner. The bag beside me was my sister's. And she certainly couldn't have stolen anyone's wallet. That's absolutely impossible because since childhood, my sister has been unable to walk and uses a wheelchair. She can't stand or walk on her own. My in-laws and Lauren had seen her in a wheelchair at the dinner. Since the dinner party began, Gina hadn't moved from her seat and had been chatting amiably with my parents and in-laws. It's likely that Lauren herself placed the wallet in Gina's bag. The question is when she managed to do it without us noticing. Lauren, you came over to greet us and our parents before the meal, didn't you? At that time, I recall you were sitting in such a way that you were almost hiding my bag behind you. I felt something off about your behavior then. Didn't you put the wallet in at that moment? Gina's calm response helped clarify my suspicions. Lauren, unable to answer immediately, looked flustered. Her eyes darting around, her behavior practically confirmed it. Cornered with no escape, Lauren groaned, Gina continued in a calm tone. I heard about your personality from my sister. It's shocking that someone close to my age would go to such lengths to harass someone. Please don't hurt my dear sister anymore. Hearing this, I finally realized that Gina was angry. Gina has always been gentle. But when she is angry, she speaks in a quiet, admonishing tone, which is quite intimidating. Lauren, unable to talk her way out of the lecture, was then scolded by my in-laws. Lauren, what are you doing? Calling Kelly a thief, that's beyond shameful. It's disgraceful. We've treated you and Nick equally. Where did we go wrong? Kelly, everyone, I'm so sorry our daughter has done this. My father-in-law apologized to us. However, even seeing her parents apologize didn't seem to impact Lauren. Suddenly, she stood up aggressively and glared at me. Why is everyone making me out to be the villain? I've been opposed to your marriage with Nick from the start. I hoped you'd embarrass yourself today and break up. But you've ruined even that, she ranted, infuriating everyone with her audacity. But knowing Lauren's true feelings, Nick was furious. Don't be ridiculous, he shouted, making Lauren flinch. If I had just stayed quiet, you were really trying to ruin our relationship. I can't hold back anymore, I'm going to say everything now. What? Wait, what are you going to say? Lauren attempted to stop him in a panic, but Nick, having reached his limit, could not be stopped. He revealed all of her past misdeeds. including how she had made me cover lunch expenses without ever paying me back, and how she had ambushed us in front of our company to beg for money. Moreover, Nick said that Lauren had been trying to break us up by secretly feeding him baseless bad things about me. No one would believe such words. Kelly has been working hard since she joined the company, and her kind and sincere nature is something I know best. Even if she's family, there are things you shouldn't say. Nick didn't specify what exactly Lauren had told him, but his anger suggested it was quite severe. That's what happened. When I expressed surprise upon hearing this for the first time, Nick looked frustrated. Sorry. I didn't want to worry you with unnecessary concerns, so I kept quiet. No matter what my sister says, I believe in you, Kelly. Hearing his serious words, I felt tears welling up. I wiped the tears from my eyes and turned back to Lauren. Lauren, I've decided to stand by Nick no matter what. Please start letting go of your brother, I said. Lauren, possibly embarrassed, blushed and snapped, "Shut up. You'll remember this," before storming out of the house. After the storm passed, I sighed in relief. No matter what harassment Lauren might plan in the future, I'm not afraid. This incident deepened my love for Nick. I vowed to trust him and walk together in the future. A few days later, the money for the lunches I had covered for Lauren was returned to me through my in-laws. Apparently, they had pressed Lauren to prepare the money she owed me. Later, we received a call from Lauren's ex-husband at the in-laws' house. The reason for their divorce was Lauren's spending habits. She had even dipped into their living expenses. Consequently, her ex-husband had demanded compensation from her, which she had claimed to have paid, but in reality, a significant amount was still outstanding. It turned out she had been delinquent in her repayments, which her ex-husband revealed in his call. Learning this, my in-laws had enough and disowned her. It was also revealed that she had a history of stealing money from home. Apparently, Lauren had not only the compensation to pay but also debts, from buying luxury goods and from visits to nightclubs. According to Nick, Lauren had been deeply involved in the nightclub scene since her 20s, often reprimanded by their parents. Eventually, Lauren could not manage her finances, and even misused funds from her workplace, leading to her recent dismissal. Later, Lauren, who had been kicked out of her family home and lost her job, called me. "I have no one else to rely on but you, Kelly. Please, just lend me a little money." She pleaded tearfully, but I refused firmly. "Isn't it too convenient to ask now? Please pay off your compensation and debts with money you earn yourself. I don't want to be involved with you anymore. But aren't we family? Let's get along from now on." I wanted to get along initially, too. But I can't be family with someone who spends recklessly and doesn't think they've done anything wrong. After cutting her off firmly, I hung up while she was still ranting. Lauren then began a meager existence in a cheap apartment, but soon fled due to debt collectors and is now of unknown whereabouts. Nick also said he would never involve himself with her again. A month later, we held our wedding without her presence. The wedding, blessed by many, remains a priceless memory. Afterward, we moved into our new home, and I soon discovered I was pregnant. As we await our child's birth, we spend fulfilling days together, hoping to continue these happy days with our new family.
One day the husband kicked his wife out of the house. She calmly got up and handed him a piece of paper that said, "I will no longer take care of you. In 6 months you will be dead." Isabella never imagined that Henry, the man she believed she knew better than herself, would become a stranger in a matter of seconds. She never thought a simple phone call could shatter the reality she knew. She was a young doctor, entirely dedicated to her family and her patients, willing to do anything for them. She never imagined her efforts regarding her husband would be in vain. "Henry is cheating on you," whispered the anonymous voice on the other end of the line. Isabella felt as if the world collapsed beneath her feet. She was still at the hospital and needed to maintain control, but the insinuation of infidelity echoed in her mind. For months, Henry had started inventing various business trips, so Isabella knew it could be true. Determined to catch him in the act, she drove home earlier than usual, her heart beating frantically with anxiety and suspicion. Is it possible? She wondered, refusing to believe that Henry, her companion of so many years, could betray her. Upon arriving, the first clue that something was terribly wrong. A pair of elegant, unfamiliar women's shoes rested on the entryway rug. Her stomach churned. Isabella felt a wave of nausea and betrayal rise in her throat. How could he, she thought, the pain beginning to corrode the affection and trust built over a decade of marriage. However, Isabella's phone rang before she could go up to the couple's bedroom. It was a call from the lab. A few weeks ago, the doctor noticed that her husband began to show symptoms of a serious illness, but she hoped she was wrong. "The test came back positive. I'm sorry, Isabella," said a friend on the other end of the line. It was as if Isabella's entire world decided to turn upside down all at once. The father of her children was terribly ill, and as a doctor she knew that Henry's chances of survival were small, almost non-existent. Furthermore, he might be cheating on her with a woman in their home. No, there must be an explanation for these shoes being here. Henry would not betray me, she thought as she climbed the stairs. However, Henry appeared in the hallway, his face a mask of discomfort and surprise. Beside him was an unknown woman, whose presence only intensified the whirlwind of emotions Isabella was desperately trying to deny. The woman was so beautiful that Isabella felt horrible, especially after hours of a sleepless shift. "Isabella, you should not be here," Henry said, scared. But without any further explanation, Henry looked at her with pity. "I need you to leave this house for a while," Henry said coldly. In a gesture of defiance and pain, Isabella took the test request from her bag and the notes on her husband's possible illness. Throwing them at Henry, she said, her voice choked with emotion, "The test came back positive, Henry. It should be me taking care of you. But now, you have made that impossible. In 6 months at most, you will be dead. However, with the knowledge I have, I know you do not have more than 2 months to live. I will send everything to you as soon as the lab sends me the rest of the results. I will not help you anymore. Ask her to help you," Isabella said, feeling tears well up in her eyes. "I never thought you would be capable of doing this to me, Henry," she finished, running to the bedroom. After packing her bags and the children's, Isabella returned to the living room and saw her husband with the unknown woman. He called her Olivia with such affection that Isabella felt the words like stabs in her chest. "I hope she can take care of you, Henry, because you will need it and I will not help you," she concluded, turning to leave. Isabella refused to look back, her tears mixing with anger and shock. After picking up the children from school, saying they would stay in a hotel for some fun days, she could not help but cry, and the children realized what had happened. They were too smart not to understand. "Will we get through this, Mommy?" Her youngest son's small voice broke the silence, pulling Isabella back to reality. She looked at her 2 children, their little faces marked by confusion and concern, and knew that no matter how difficult it was, she had to be strong for them. "Yes, darling, we will," Isabella responded, her voice firm despite the emotional chaos consuming her. "We always do," she said, but she knew the children's father would not survive. She hoped for a miracle, at least for the children's sake, as she no longer wanted the man who had betrayed her so cowardly. In the days that followed, Isabella found herself immersed in a sea of uncertainties. Staying in a hotel with the children, she tried to maintain normalcy, but the unanswered questions tormented every waking moment. The children, sensing their mother's latent sadness, surrounded her with hugs, small gestures of beauty for her shattered soul. Isabella was torn between the desire to protect them from any pain and the need to face her own inner pain. Then the phone rang, cutting through the silence of a terrible night. It was Henry, and his voice carried despair. Isabella had never heard her husband despair like this before. "Isabella, I need you. If you do not come, I will be dead," he managed to say before the sounds of medical urgency took over the background of the call. The phrase, "He is going into shock," reverberated through the phone, followed by a chaotic sound that made Isabella's heart race in panic. Her name, murmured by Henry with such vulnerability, was the last thing she heard before the line fell into crushing silence. Isabella remained still, the phone still pressed to her ear as a battle unfolded within her. On one hand, the memory of the betrayal and the pain inflicted by Henry. On the other, the oath she had taken as a doctor, never to turn her back on those in need. But he had brought another woman into their home, probably made love to her in their bed. The anger was still present in every breath Isabella took. She struggled with her conscience. "How can I save someone who broke my heart?" she wondered, tears streaming freely. But deep down, Isabella knew that regardless of Henry's mistakes, she could not let him face his fate alone. "We always overcome," the phrase she had said to the children echoed now in her mind, a reminder of her own resilience. He was the father of her children. Isabella would help him for their sake. With her decision made, Isabella wiped her tears and prepared to act. Dressing quickly, she left a note for the children, promising to return soon, and left in the silence of the night towards the hospital. The journey there felt eternal, each red light an additional test of her determination. Upon arriving, Isabella was immediately enveloped by the urgency that only a hospital knows. Her presence was an immediate relief for the medical team, who guided her to where Henry was being treated. Seeing him so fragile and dependent, Isabella felt her anger and betrayal give way to professionalism. "I am here, Henry," she whispered, taking his hand. At that moment, Isabella was not just the betrayed wife, she was the doctor, the mother, the woman who, despite everything, chose hope and love over bitterness. One of the nurses signaled that Henry had been stabilized. This news should bring relief, but for Isabella each heartbeat was a reminder of the chaos her life had become. She barely had time to absorb the information, as a doctor entered the room with hurried steps and a serious expression conveying urgency. "Isabella, we need you," he said, guiding her through the illuminated corridors of the hospital. "There is a patient in critical condition who requires your expertise. You are the only one who can help." Hesitation took hold of Isabella. Her mind was still stuck on the image of Henry with another woman, the pain of the betrayal still throbbing in her chest. However, when faced with the patient, the unknown woman who had invaded her life and home, now pale and fighting for her life, Isabella felt the reality of her profession weigh upon her shoulders. It was as if fate was taking revenge for what they had done to her. The irony of the situation did not escape her. Her husband's supposed lover now depended on her skills to survive. The lover lay in bed, her face marked by illness and suffering. Olivia, the woman Henry called with such affection, was almost unrecognizable in her frail state. Isabella observed her from a distance, the internal conflict growing. How could she save the life of someone who represented the destruction of her own world? "Are you okay?" Dr. Benjamin asked, noticing Isabella's hesitation. His concern was genuine, but Isabella knew he could not understand the torment she faced. I do not know," she admitted, the truth of her words weighing heavily on her tongue. It was a cruel crossroads. Ignore her oath and let her personal feelings influence her professional decision, or rise above the pain, saving a life at the cost of facing her own anguish. She had slept with Isabella's husband in their bed, in the house where they built a family. "I will do the surgery," Isabella finally said, her voice barely a whisper. The decision did not come easily. Each word cost her a piece of her already wounded heart. But Isabella chose hope and love over bitterness, deciding to act not just as the betrayed wife, but as the doctor who vowed to save lives, regardless of personal circumstances. As she prepared for the surgery, Isabella felt the anger and betrayal give way to a sense of purpose. She did not know what the future held or if she could ever forgive Henry, but at that moment she had a life to save. And that was all that mattered. The operating room was enveloped in tense silence, broken only by the sound of surgical instruments and monitors displaying Olivia's vital signs. Isabella, with steady hands despite the turmoil in her heart, operated with a precision only years of experience could provide. Each movement was calculated. Each decision weighed under the pressure of irreversible consequences. She was saving the life of her husband's lover. Each moment in the operating room was a battle between her professional integrity and the personal pain that threatened to consume her. The procedure was almost complete when an alarm abruptly sounded, cutting through the tension like a sharp knife. The medical team responsible for Henry sprang into action, and Isabella was informed of the severe complications he was facing. "Doctor, Mr. Henry, he is in critical condition. He has gone into shock again. Only you can save him," one of the nurses informed, her voice tense with urgency. Isabella felt her world stop. Henry, the man she loved, the father of her children, was fighting for his life while she operated on the woman who had destroyed her marriage. A terrible choice presented itself: leave the surgery incomplete, potentially condemning Olivia, or stay and finish the procedure, entrusting Henry's life to the medical team. Isabella's emotions were at war. Professional responsibility demanded that she finish the surgery. Her heart, however, begged her to go to Henry's side, as she still loved him more than she would like to admit. With a sigh that carried the weight of her decision, Isabella chose to finish the procedure. "Take care of him," she murmured, giving precise instructions on how to treat Henry's condition to save him. "Lord, please help the nurses save Henry. I do not want him to die," she prayed, finding it ironic for a doctor to seek divine help while performing surgery. Finishing the operation required a strength Isabella barely knew she possessed. Each moment was accompanied by concern for Henry, each heartbeat a reminder of the choice she had made. When the surgery was finally completed and Olivia stabilized, Isabella felt an emptiness, quickly replaced by the urgency to know about her husband. Upon leaving the operating room, Isabella's legs barely supported her. The news that awaited her outside was all that mattered now. Dr. Benjamin met her in the hallway, his face grim. "Henry, he is stable now, but it was close. If you had not instructed the nurses, my specialization would not have allowed me to help him," he said, a small consolation for Isabella's troubled heart. She felt a mixture of relief and devastation. She had saved a life, but at the cost of immense anguish for herself and her children. The decision to remain in the operating room, to choose her professional duty over being by Henry's side in his moment of need, left her questioning if she had made the right choice. The next day, Isabella returned to Henry's room to check if he remained stable. Her husband smiled at her when he saw her. "You look better," she said, pointing to the monitors. But before Henry could respond, a nurse entered the room. "Patient Olivia Miller needs your help, Dr. Isabella. There was a complication in the surgery," the nurse announced, interrupting the conversation between Henry and Isabella. The tension in the room became immense. Henry, now aware of his lover's fragility, looked at Isabella with a mix of gratitude and despair. "Isabella, please," he pleaded, his voice weak but urgent. "She needs you more than I do now. Please save her." Isabella felt every word from Henry like needles in her heart. The complexity of her emotions became almost unbearable. Henry's desperation confirmed her suspicions of infidelity, cutting her deeply. Before Isabella could fully process her thoughts and make a decision, the reality of the hospital called her back. Another doctor entered the room, panting and clearly worried, interrupting the tense moment. "Dr. Isabella, it is the patient, Olivia. If you do not come now, she will die." Isabella's heart froze. Every second counted, and Olivia's life, the woman she barely knew and yet was inextricably linked to her world, hung in the balance. Isabella did not tell Henry how much his request had shattered her heart and ran through the hospital corridors. However, before she could reach the ICU, Olivia's family intercepted her, their faces marked by anguish and confusion. "Please, doctor," the matriarch of the family pleaded, her hands trembling. "We heard the nurses say you are the wife of the man our Olivia was involved with. Let another doctor treat her," Olivia's mother said. The family's request was like a blow to Isabella. The accusation that she would cease to be a doctor became another pain she would carry in her heart. She saved lives. She had never been in this position. Isabella looked at Olivia's mother, her eyes overflowing with a mixture of anger, despair, and a plea for understanding. "I understand your concerns, but I'm the only doctor who can treat her. So your daughter's life is in my hands," she said, making her choice, feeling the anger seep into her veins before moving towards the ICU with determined steps. The family watched her, torn between fear and hope. Opening the door, Isabella entered the ICU, greeted by the sound of monitors and the antiseptic smell permeating the air. She approached Olivia's bed, where the patient lay unconscious, her breathing assisted by machines. Isabella looked at Olivia, trying to separate the woman before her from all the pain and confusion her presence had caused in her life. With steady hands, Isabella began to assess Olivia's condition, each action reflecting years of training and experience. The doctor within her took control, guiding her through the necessary procedures to stabilize Olivia. Isabella worked tirelessly, her concentration unwavering, as she fought to keep thoughts of Henry and what his relationship with Olivia meant for her future at bay. Hours later, when Isabella finally left the ICU, the morning light was beginning to filter through the hospital corridors. She had done everything in her power to save Olivia, but now, exhausted and emotionally drained, Isabella felt the immense void left by the recent revelations about Henry. With that, Isabella left the hospital without saying anything more. She was exhausted. The children were already asleep at the hotel, despite it being early. As soon as the babysitter left, Isabella sat on the bed, completely shattered. She had barely begun to process the complexity of saving Olivia's life once again. She remembered Henry's desperate look and the painful accusation from Olivia's family when her phone rang, breaking the silence of the room. Hesitant, she answered, fearing more bad news. On the other end of the line was the lawyer handling her separation, bringing news Isabella could never have anticipated. "Isabella, I do not know how to say this. Henry transferred a large portion of his assets to Olivia Miller's name in the weeks before his hospitalization." Isabella's heart stopped. This revelation not only confirmed Henry's infidelity, but also suggested a level of premeditation and abandonment she could not comprehend. "Why?" she whispered, more to herself than to the lawyer. "Why would he do this?" The news plunged Isabella into a new abyss of shock and confusion. Henry, the man with whom she had shared most of her adult life, had chosen to give their assets to that woman. She had worked tirelessly, just like Henry. Everything they had was for them and their children. How could he do this? She asked herself. Isabella felt as if her world kept turning upside down dozens of times. She had fought with all her might to save her traitorous husband's life and his lover, while they wanted to take her children's assets away. Isabella began to question everything: Henry's love for her, the value of her own sacrifice and dedication, and even the meaning of her struggle to save Olivia. Part of her wanted to confront Henry, demand answers to the burning questions within her, but another part feared what else she might discover. Determined to stop thinking about the betrayal, Isabella decided to review some of Henry's tests that had been sent to her from the lab. However, she found a reference to a rare genetic condition mentioned in one of the documents, a condition that made it clear her husband had no more chances of survival. It was an aggravating factor that made everything worse. He would die, and now she did not know how to forgive him before he passed. Henry would need a transplant that seemed impossible to obtain in time. So Isabella began to review all his medical exams, looking for any possibility, however remote, of saving Henry's life. Isabella faced the night at the hotel with a lost look at the documents spread over the bed. The mention of a rare genetic condition in Henry's tests not only reinforced the gravity of his situation, but also cast a shadow over everything she knew. How will the children cope? She asked herself, feeling the weight of each word. All the slim chances she might have had to save the father of her children had vanished. The next day, back at the hospital, Isabella sought out Dr. Benjamin, a colleague and friend. Finding him in a secluded corner of the cafeteria, she confided, "Benjamin, I am facing something I never imagined. Henry may not have much time." Dr. Benjamin, looking at her with a mix of concern and support, replied, "Isabella, you are the most dedicated doctor I know. If anyone can find a way, it is you." However, before Isabella could solve everything and try to find a compatible donor for Henry, she was summoned by the ethics committee. "I am sorry Olivia's mother reported you to the committee," said the hospital administrator. "She believes your personal life and the conflict with the patient may have affected her daughter's health. You need to go to the board as soon as possible," he said, making Isabella shrink. She could lose her medical license if Olivia's mother's allegations were accepted. However, if that happened, the woman would have no chance of survival. Isabella was the only one in the country with the specialization for that condition. It was a terrible coincidence that Olivia and Henry were sick together, with different health problems, but both fighting to survive. Now both depended on Isabella to win this battle. Armed with a new determination, Isabella faced the ethics committee, her last hope to save Olivia. She presented her case with fervor, but with each argument she made, she felt the committee's resistance. This patient needs another surgery. It is a risky and difficult procedure due to the severity of her health. However, there is no other surgeon with the specialization to perform the surgery except me. Without it, we have no chance of saving Olivia, she argued vehemently. The committee representative ignored everything Isabella said and raised his chin. You are indeed married to the man Olivia was involved with. Is there a personal conflict with this patient? He asked, making Isabella feel she was losing. Henry will think I let her die out of revenge. Maybe the committee will too. How can I save my career when it is on the brink of collapse? She thought before answering. Yes, there is a personal conflict, but I adhere strictly to my oath. I will save Olivia, she argued, but the board was unyielding. No, you will not. Due to your personal conflict with the patient, she will be assigned to another doctor. This is a requirement from Olivia Miller's adoptive mother. Leaving the committee room, Isabella felt as if an emptiness consumed her. She walked back to Henry's room in a state of torpor. Upon arriving, she found Henry asleep, the peace on his face painfully contrasting with the storm within her. Sitting beside him, she whispered, Henry, what are we going to do now? Even knowing he could not answer. As much as everything that happened hurt her, as much as every inch of her body loved Henry, she wanted to see him happy. If Henry's only chance to have his last days in peace was for Olivia to be safe, she would resolve it. Even if jealousy corroded her, she would save the woman, as Henry had requested when he found out Olivia was ill. On that occasion, he was desperate, and as much as it hurt, Isabella could not let him die that way for the sake of their children. Remembering the committee's verdict that she let Olivia die in the hands of another doctor, she made her decision. I cannot let this happen, she thought, with a resolution firming within her. Getting up, Isabella prepared for a risky plan, determined not to allow bureaucracy to cost another person's life, even if it could end her career. The news of the committee's denial weighed on Isabella like a sentence. Henry, still fragile and recovering, looked at her with a mix of hope and despair. Any news about Olivia? He asked, his voice weak. Isabella could notice the concern in his tone. She wanted to scream, turn inside out with jealousy, and felt small, as if she no longer mattered to him since Olivia appeared in his life. Struggling to find the right words, Isabella replied, They denied me performing a new surgery on Olivia. I do not know what to do. Henry closed his eyes, a shadow of pain crossing his face. You did everything you could, he whispered, trying to offer comfort even amid his own despair, but Isabella knew it was not enough. Olivia's life was at risk, and she could not simply accept the committee's decision without a fight. For everything we had, Isabella. Save Olivia, she does not deserve to die this way, he cried, making Isabella's chest open. He never cried for her as a wife. Now he was pouring tears. Henry loved Olivia, just as Isabella loved him. Back in her office, Isabella took a long time to recover from the sadness and jealousy, but her medical practicality took over. The options before her were bleak. Accept the committee's decision, potentially costing Olivia's life and destroying the father of her children before he died, or pursue a risky path that could save Olivia but destroy her own career. She tried to separate her personal life from the issue. If it were another patient, I would do everything to save him. I would not let him die if I could avoid it. Isabella murmured to herself, I have to save the patient no matter the cost. A plan began to form in her mind. However, when she looked for her pen, her eyes fell on the documents she had brought from home. It was a mail envelope dated a few weeks before. It was a letter from Olivia addressed to Henry. I must have brought this with me in my hurry to leave the house, she thought, feeling curiosity gnaw at her. Perhaps the letter explained the reason he had to betray her. Maybe it could say if she was not enough, what she did wrong, Isabella thought with tears in her eyes. Isabella picked up the envelope, pondering the mystery it might contain. What did Olivia write here, she thought, with a heavy heart about the decision she was about to make. Opening the envelope with trembling hands, Isabella prepared to discover what made her husband betray her and expel her from their home as if she were an intruder. He said he loved her every day. How could he suddenly fall in love with Olivia? After reading Olivia's letter, Isabella felt as if she were walking down a dark, lonely corridor, each word of the letter echoing in her mind, intensifying her sense of isolation. Henry, what did you do? She whispered to the emptiness of the hotel room, the anguish growing within her. In the suffocating silence, Isabella pondered the letter's content. Olivia's words, full of gratitude for Henry, made her heart bleed. Isabella could not shake off the weight of jealousy and betrayal. How did they fall in love? She wondered, the pain mingling with the uncertainty of what was really happening between Henry and Olivia. With her mind in turmoil, Isabella knew she could not trust anyone at the hospital. Gossip about her personal involvement with Olivia's case had spread, and her colleagues avoided her, fearing negative associations. "I am alone in this," she acknowledged, the reality of her isolation hitting hard. "She performed surgery on her husband's lover," said one nurse. "I bet she did something wrong for the woman to end up like that," she murmured, but not quietly enough for Isabella not to hear. "Everyone said this Dr. Isabella had a perfect marriage. Now she is going to lose her license and marriage for what she did in that surgery," the other said. Isabella pretended not to hear, walking slowly down the corridor. "They said the lover is very beautiful. The man could not resist her charms," they continued, making the doctor feel tears well up in her eyes. "I do not know how they still keep her in this hospital. They should fire her," one of them said, as if rooting for Isabella's downfall. She remembered her children, how much she needed to stay at the hospital, her patients, before entering the bathroom and bursting into tears. "Henry will die, but he also ruined my life," she murmured to herself, crying. "How will I tell the children? What will I do?" she thought between the sobs caused by crying. As soon as she left the bathroom, after washing her face and breathing deeply for a few minutes, Isabella was determined. "Now more than ever, I will have to save Olivia. Otherwise all my colleagues will think I made a mistake in the surgery, and not that there was a complication. My career and my children's future depend on this," she thought. Henry had no more chances of life. She would have to support the children alone. She could not be fired, much less have Olivia die to complicate her situation at the hospital. In a state of desolation, Isabella met her only friend, Dr. Benjamin, at a forgotten cafe near the hospital. The place was small and discreet, perfect for the conversation they needed to have. "I heard about your situation," said Dr. Benjamin, his voice low, imbued with seriousness. "There is an option, but it is risky." Isabella looked at him, her eyes begging for any spark of hope. "Whatever it is, I will do it," she affirmed, the desperation making her voice firm. Dr. Benjamin hesitated, looking around before leaning forward. "There is an experimental procedure. It is not approved here, but it can save Olivia's life." Isabella felt her heart race. "But how, if the committee—" "I know people," Dr. Benjamin interrupted. "We can do it away from the committee's eyes. But if we are discovered—" He left the threat in the air, the gravity of the situation clear. "I have to try," Isabella repeated, the resolution in her voice stronger now. "Tell me what needs to be done." They planned in secret, deciding to use an unused operating room hidden in the basement of the old hospital. "Everything has to be done at night under the cover of darkness," explained Dr. Benjamin, outlining each step with meticulous care. On the night of the procedure, Isabella's heart pounded loudly in her chest as she made her way to the hidden operating room. "We are doing the right thing," Dr. Benjamin assured, although his own voice trembled with the tension of the moment. When the appointed time came, Isabella went to Olivia's room. She began by putting a surgical mask on the woman's face to hide who the patient was, and also covered her hair with a cap as a precaution. Only someone very attentive would recognize Olivia, but in the early hours, nurses and doctors usually retreated for a rest and only came out when there was an emergency, so few would see Isabella with the patient in the corridor. With quick steps, the doctor pulled the stretcher and hurried through the hospital corridors as if the patient's life depended on it, so no one could see Isabella's face as they passed quickly by the hospital staff. However, upon arriving with the patient at the elevator, the indicator light turned on. The doctor knew she was in trouble. If someone saw her inside the compartment with her husband's lover on the stretcher, she would be fired. "Lord, please help me save this woman. My children's livelihood. My job depends on it," she prayed, trying to stay in front of Olivia when the doors opened. However, there was no one there. Probably whoever called the elevator gave up and decided to take the stairs. So Isabella quickly pressed the button on the panel, and when the doors finally opened on the unused floor, she sighed in relief. The place was eerie, a dark hospital corridor that looked like a haunted place. As Isabella entered the unused operating room, she prayed that everything would go well again before nodding to the doctor waiting for her. "We are doing the right thing," Dr. Benjamin assured, although his voice trembled with the tension of the moment. She knew the risks, but the alternative, doing nothing, was unacceptable. The silence was almost palpable as they began, the only light coming from dim lamps hanging above them. "Let's save this girl," Isabella said, more to herself than to Dr. Benjamin as she picked up the scalpel. Only 2 nurses agreed to help, but it was enough for them to perform the risky procedure. As Isabella checked everything to start the procedure, her medical commitment took over. She loved saving lives. Being able to help those who were sick was her life's motivation. "I will save the patient," she murmured, as she always did before cutting through Olivia's skin to start the surgery. In a sepulchral silence, Isabella and her improvised team concentrated on the delicate surgery. The tension was palpable, each of Isabella's movements meticulously calculated, while the dim lamps above cast long, sinister shadows across the forgotten room. The 2 nurses watched, their faces illuminated by the faint light, eyes fixed on the operation ahead. "Pressure dropping," one of the nurses announced, their voice breaking the silence like distant thunder. Isabella felt a knot form in her stomach. "Not now," she murmured, her hands working urgently, trying to stabilize the situation. "Olivia, stay with me," she whispered, as if the patient could hear her. It was a critical moment. Isabella knew that if she removed her hands even for a second, Olivia might not survive. "Give me more saline," she ordered, her voice firm despite the fear consuming her. Then they heard hurried footsteps approaching, echoing down the abandoned corridor. Isabella's heart raced. She and Dr. Benjamin exchanged looks, both aware of what that meant. "Who's there?" The authoritative voice of the hospital administrator cut through the tense air. Isabella remained still over Olivia, her hands still buried in the patient's open abdomen. Dr. Benjamin stepped forward, trying to intercept the administrator before he could see what they were doing. "Dr. Benjamin, what's going on here? Is this authorized?" the administrator asked, his voice laden with surprise upon realizing the clandestine surgery before his eyes. "We are saving a life," Dr. Benjamin responded, his tone defiant. "This is a direct violation of hospital protocols," the administrator exclaimed, his anger palpable. "Do you know what this means? For all of you?" Isabella briefly raised her eyes, meeting the administrator's accusing gaze. "I had to do it," she said, her voice just a whisper but laden with determination. "I could not let her die. If you want to blame someone, blame me." She spoke, determined. The administrator shook his head, frustration and disapproval evident on his face. "The consequences of this will be severe. You were willing to risk everything for her?" "Yes," Isabella affirmed, without hesitation, her hands still firm in her task. "Because that's what doctors do. We save lives, no matter the cost or who it is." The ensuing silence was thick, everyone in the room aware of the implications of that moment. Isabella continued, every second counting, as the fate of everyone in that clandestine operating room hung by a short thread. The operation was turbulent but concluded. Isabella finally managed to stabilize Olivia, and now needed to wait for her to wake up to know the outcome of the surgery. As she walked to Henry's room with determined steps, she carried the letter in her hand. No more going without explanations. She had done everything to save Olivia, but now she needed to confront Henry, to release the words of anger that were in her throat, threatening to suffocate her. He had betrayed her. She had saved his lover, and now that she had done it, she needed to finish it, to get rid of the weight of all the accumulated questions and resentments. Upon entering, she found Henry weak but conscious, his eyes lighting up upon seeing her. "I need answers, Henry," Isabella began, her voice trembling but firm. She handed the letter to him, her expression demanding the truth she deserved. "I deserve an explanation. Why did you betray me?" Henry took the letter with trembling hands, looking at Isabella with a gaze that mixed surprise and pain. "I should have told you before. I did not imagine you would think I was having an affair with someone else," he admitted, his voice weak. "I did not want to tell you who Olivia was, not to give you false hopes. I discovered I was sick a few weeks before you examined me. I already knew, so I started looking for my biological family. As you know, I was adopted very young and had no information about my life before the adoption." He paused, struggling for breath. "I traveled to the orphanage and asked them to tell me about my parents, but I only had a mother who died of the same disease I have today. She had 2 children, me and my sister Olivia," he said, leaving Isabella in shock. It took me a long time to find Olivia. I traveled to several cities until I found her. When I had nowhere else to look, a detective helped me, and finally we got a lead that led us to her. My sister is a sweet woman, very devoted to her adoptive family, and above all, very kind. When I said I needed a donation, she offered to help, but she inherited other health problems from our biological family and could only donate if she got better, he explained, making Isabella's eyes fill with tears. I got a call, Henry. They said you were cheating on me, and when I got home, Olivia was there with you, she said with lament. A colleague saw me with Olivia and misunderstood everything. I did not think he would call you and start saying things he did not know. I had so much on my mind at that moment that I did not care about the gossip. Olivia had few chances of survival, but more than I did. When I found out she had gotten worse, it was the day you came home. I did not want you and the children to see me die. I did not want to say goodbye to you. I could not. So I asked her to take care of me. But a few days later she got sick, just like I did. Then I called you. I never thought you would think I was cheating on you. I believed you were jealous of seeing me with a new friend. I never cheated on you or would cheat on you, my love. I love our children. I love you and our family. Forgive me for being... He stopped talking and his eyelids closed before Isabella could respond. Isabella held Henry's hand tighter, his words echoing in her mind, bringing a mixture of relief and deep pain. She looked at him, the man she loved, now so fragile and vulnerable before her, fighting for his life. I understand, Henry, she said softly, tears streaming freely down her face. I just wish you had trusted me from the beginning. We could have faced this together. Henry, with effort, opened his eyes, looking at her with an intensity Isabella had not seen in a long time. I know, he whispered, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. But please, Isabella, you need to know that everything I did was to protect our family. If you had let Olivia die, thinking she was my lover, I would not have had any chance, he said, his voice low and laden with emotion. My life, our future, everything depended on your ability to see beyond what seemed to be. Your kindness and professionalism gave us a chance, but it is too late. Isabella squeezed Henry's hand, fighting against the wave of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. Henry, do not talk like that. You will be okay, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. He smiled sadly. Isabella, I love you. You have always been the heart of this family. Take care of our children, take care of everything. His voice faltered as his eyelids began to droop, the effort to stay awake visibly exhausting him. Henry, please stay with me, Isabella pleaded, feeling the panic grow inside her as she watched her husband slowly close his eyes. I will try, he murmured, before his breathing became slower and more irregular, and his body relaxed completely on the bed, entering a coma. Isabella quickly called the medical team as the reality of what had happened hit her painfully. Henry was in a coma, and his life depended not only on the doctors but also on Olivia, who was still unconscious after the surgery. Isabella knew that if the patient did not improve in time, Henry would not have the chance to receive the desperately needed transplant. Lost in her thoughts, Isabella looked out the hospital window, her heart heavy with the responsibility and weight of the decision she needed to make. I have to save them both, no matter the cost, she murmured to herself, knowing that her family's future depended on her future actions. In the days that followed, Isabella divided her time between Henry's room and the ICU where Olivia was hospitalized. With each visit, she spoke to Olivia, encouraging her to fight, even though she knew the words were more for herself, keeping the flame of hope alive. Against all odds, Olivia's health began to improve. Each small progress was a triumph, and Isabella clung to every positive sign as a promise that everything would be okay. When Olivia finally opened her eyes, Isabella was by her side, holding her hand with tears of relief and gratitude. "Henry needs you," Isabella whispered, explaining the situation delicately. Olivia, still weak but determined, nodded. "I will do anything to help him. He is my brother," she said firmly. The days turned into weeks, and with continuous treatment and Olivia's recovery, the transplant surgery was scheduled. It was a risky procedure, but necessary. Isabella supervised every detail, ensuring everything went as planned. On the day of the surgery, the hospital was on high alert. Isabella, though consumed by nerves, remained composed, trusting the medical team and her silent prayers. The procedure was long and tense, But in the end, as she left the operating room, Isabella gave a tired smile. It was a success, she announced to the team, and finally she felt the walls she had built around her heart crumble with relief. In the months that followed, both Henry and Olivia recovered completely. Henry, now fully aware of what Isabella had done for him, renewed his vows with her in a small ceremony surrounded by friends and family. "You saved not only my life, but also our family," he said, his eyes full of tears and gratitude. "I love you more than words can express." Isabella smiled, holding Henry's hand with new strength. "I will always do whatever it takes," she replied, her voice full of love and determination. Olivia, now an integral part of the family, smiled at them, grateful for having found not only her brother but an entire family that welcomed her, in addition to the family she already had. She even accepted Isabella's apology for judging her incorrectly. A few weeks later, Isabella was honored with a Medal of Honor by the hospital. The award was given not only for her medical excellence, but also for her moral and professional integrity in saving Olivia's life, despite the complicated personal circumstances involved. During the ceremony, the hospital director highlighted how Isabella had acted with extraordinary compassion and professionalism, prioritizing the medical oath of saving lives above her personal issues. Dr. Isabella demonstrated a strength and dedication that are exemplary for all of us in the field of medicine, said the director, while the audience of fellow doctors, nurses, and hospital staff gave a standing ovation. She acted not only as a doctor, but as a true leader, showing that empathy and commitment to life are the greatest values a doctor can possess, said the speaker. After that storm of challenges, Isabella and Henry rebuilt their life together, strengthened by a deeper understanding and renewed love. Together with their children, who admired their parents' courage and resilience, they formed an even closer family. They celebrated many moments together, valuing every second as a precious gift. Their lives, enriched by overcoming and learning, moved forward with gratitude and joy, always remembering that through the storm they found a path of light and hope. If you love this story, we invite you to like and subscribe to our channel. It motivates us to continue bringing exciting stories almost every day. Do not miss the next surprising story that is about to appear on your screen. We thank you immensely for having you here. Now you can click on the links appearing on the screen right now. We have a special selection just for you, full of valuable and emotional lessons. See you there.
My husband has been having an affair and has been buying expensive gifts for his mistress using my credit card. I've put up with this for our son, but I can't take it anymore. I need to do something, and the person who ended up helping me was the last one I expected. My name is Alexa, and I'm 35 years old. I've been married to my husband Austin for 10 years. We have an 8-year-old son named Drake. I love reading and now work as a novelist, which was my dream job. My first mystery novel was a big success, and I have several ongoing series each month. My books sell well, so I'm quite busy. At first, my husband had a job, but he quit when I started earning enough money. For the past 2 to 3 years, he has been staying home and sometimes going out to play slot machines. Despite this, he is dressed up in a suit today, which is unusual. Oh, why a suit? I decided to ask him. Austin, it's unusual to see you in a suit. Where are you going? I asked. His eyes widened in surprise, but he quickly composed himself. Oh, I have an interview, he replied. An interview for what? I inquired. A job, he said. I thought maybe it's time I started working again, he added. I see. Good luck, I said. Yeah, I'm off, he responded before leaving. At that time, I truly believed he was going to a job interview. Our son is still little, and I thought Austin must have been thinking about our future. However, he didn't come home until 1 a.m. that night. I was still awake because I had a deadline coming up. When Austin finally came in, he fell asleep on the living room sofa, smelling of alcohol and perfume. His smartphone was in his hand, and it was unlocked. Out of curiosity, I looked at his phone. What's this? No, I can't believe it, I whispered to myself. It turned out my husband was cheating on me. What shocked me even more was that his lover was my close friend, Ashley. They had gone to a fancy restaurant known for its beautiful night view. I felt as if I had been hit with something really hard. No way, Austin is having an affair with Ashley? Why? Ashley has a husband too, doesn't she? I trusted both of them. Tears filled my eyes as I faced this unexpected reality. Not wanting to wake my husband, I tried desperately to hold them back. Evidence. Yes, evidence, I thought. For now, I sent the evidence of the affair to my own phone and decided to think about what to do next. The next morning, I casually asked my husband, who was acting normal as usual, "Hey, Austin, about yesterday." "Yesterday," he responded. "You know, you said you had an interview, but you came home late. I was just wondering what happened," I said. My husband looked away, seeming to think of an excuse. "Actually, I ran into a friend after the interview, so we ended up going for a drink." "A friend? Who?" "Someone you don't know. I don't have to explain everything, do I?" "Yeah, you're right," I replied, feeling a mix of frustration and sadness. As expected, my husband hid the fact that he had met Ashley. His attitude made it clear he was having an affair. A month after discovering my husband's affair, I still didn't know what to do. I hadn't confronted him about it yet. If I did, our marriage would probably end badly. If it was just me, I would have shown him the evidence and divorced him already. The only reason I didn't divorce him was for our son, Drake. I couldn't take his father away from him when he was still only 8 years old. Afterward, Austin took advantage of me being confined to my room working and started going out frequently. But this was also a perfect opportunity for me. I decided to gather evidence of his affair while he was out. In his room, I found several unfamiliar receipts. Apparently, he had bought luxury branded goods for women, but those items weren't in the room. Of course, I didn't receive them either. The only answer was that Austin was giving these items to Ashley. But where did he get the money for that? He's unemployed and living off the allowance I give him every month. He shouldn't have any savings left. Curious, I decided to follow my husband. In the meantime, I called my brother to look after my son. Of course, my brother didn't know about Austin's infidelity, so I lied to him. "I'm sorry for calling you over so suddenly," I said. "No, I don't mind, but what's up? You suddenly said you want me to look after Drake," my brother asked. "Actually, there's something I really need to go shopping for on my own," I explained. "Shopping? You've never been materialistic. You usually shop online," he remarked. I know, but today I want to go buy something that's only available in the store. "So, can you look after Drake?" I requested. "Well, okay. But don't be too late, okay? Drake will get lonely and miss you," my brother replied with concern. "Yeah, thank you," I said gratefully, masking the turmoil inside me as I prepared to follow Austin and uncover the truth about his affair. With my brother's help, I successfully followed my husband and witnessed him walking arm in arm with my best friend, Ashley. Seeing it with my own eyes was shocking. They entered a luxurious brand shop together, filled with joy. Then something unbelievable caught my eye. "What? You're kidding, right? That's my credit card," I exclaimed in disbelief. Indeed, the card my husband used to pay was the secondary credit card I usually keep in my drawer. I always use my main card for transactions, but he had taken the secondary card without my permission to buy gifts for Ashley. Over the past few months, I had made various purchases for work-related items like monitors, keyboards, and even furniture, accumulating significant charges on the card. Both cards are linked to the same bank account, and due to being busy, I hadn't checked the card details recently. It had now come back to haunt me. "I can't believe this," I muttered, stunned by the betrayal and financial deceit. Not only was he cheating on me, but he was also using my money without my knowledge. Any love I had left for my husband vanished completely. I blamed myself for not checking and not noticing, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive him. I took plenty of pictures of them together and went straight home. Over the next few days, I focused on planning how to confront my husband. When he wasn't around, I repeatedly checked his PC. Since his smartphone and PC were synced, I could easily see his conversations with Ashley on the computer. It soon became clear that they were planning a trip together during the upcoming holidays. A 4-day trip, huh? I mused to myself. Yes, this is my chance, I resolved, feeling determined to take action. I planned to get back at my husband while he was away on a trip with his lover. But there was a problem. Our son, Drake. It would be hard to pull off my plan without Drake finding out about his father's affair. So I decided to ask my brother for help again. "I hate to ask, but can you look after Drake during the upcoming holidays?" "The holidays? You mean all 4 days?" "Yes, I have something important to do." "Something important, huh?" He said this with a knowing tone. I felt uneasy with my brother's attitude when he straightforwardly remarked, Alexa, you don't have to handle everything by yourself. What do you mean? Austin's cheating, isn't he? What? How did you? I heard it from Drake. What? Drake. My son had figured out about my husband's affair, even though he was just a child. I'm not sure if he fully understood everything, but he saw that his father was getting close to someone who wasn't me, and it was making me upset. It seems like he sensed something was wrong, even at his young age. But I thought I was hiding it so well from Drake. Why? It means Austin hurt you enough for Drake to notice. Are you going to stay with someone like him? But if I divorce Austin, Drake will be sad. As soon as I said that, my son, who was supposed to be in the next room, appeared. It's okay, Mom. I'm on your side. Drake, are you sure? I don't want anyone who makes you sad, Mom. As long as I have you, I'm fine. Oh, thank you, Drake. And thank you too, brother. With the support of my son and brother, I found the courage to confront my husband about his affair. Drake and I began preparing to move out on the day my husband was set to leave for his trip with his lover. My brother helped us pack discreetly while Austin was away. On the night before his departure, I decided to confront my husband one last time. Austin, why are you packing a suitcase? What's going on? Oh, this. Actually, I'm going on a trip with some friends starting tomorrow. A trip? Why didn't you mention this earlier? It was a last-minute plan. Nothing serious. I'm using my monthly allowance for it. My husband clearly didn't want to discuss it further and gave off an aura that said, "Don't bother me." But I wasn't deterred. I confronted him in a quiet, determined voice I rarely used. Hey, are you sure it's just with your friends? My husband visibly panicked, his shoulders twitching nervously. Despite his unease, he clung stubbornly to his lie. Oh, absolutely. You're really insistent, aren't you? All right, I understand. Enjoy your trip with your friends. I would have enjoyed it anyway, even if you hadn't said that. Well, just be responsible, okay? With that, I left my husband's room. Honestly, if he had been honest with me then, I might have considered a civil separation with alimony and child support. Despite his betrayal, there was a time I loved him deeply. He supported me when my novel didn't sell. I didn't want to harbor true hatred or bitterness toward him. Yet, given the circumstances, I couldn't be too forgiving for the sake of my son and my own future. I decided it was time to take action and end things with him. There was no reason for me to hold back anymore, especially after discovering his continued deceit. Early the next morning, my husband had already left for his trip. I checked a drawer and confirmed he had taken my credit card. As usual, I promptly called the card company, reported it lost, and had it deactivated. My son woke up and I greeted him with a good morning. Mom, today's the day, right? Huh. The move. We're going to our new house today, right? Seeing the excitement in my son's eyes, any lingering doubts vanished. Oh, Drake, yes. I've canceled the credit card, so let's move to our new home. Yeah, that's right. I'm so excited for our new place. With my brother's help, our move went smoothly. Our belongings were relocated to our new home, while my husband's things were sent elsewhere the following day. Relaxing in our new space with my son and brother, my husband called. Hello? Oh, Alexa. What is it? Well, actually, this trip is costing more than I expected. Could you possibly send me some money? I realize he must be struggling financially on his trip because I have frozen the credit card. He's avoiding the real issue about the card and asking for money indirectly, which is frustrating. Didn't you plan this trip within your own budget? I'm sorry, but I can't lend you any money. Don't be like that. If you don't help me out, I'll be the only one not having a good time on this trip. You'll be the only one. Don't you mean both of you? My husband responded with a confused, huh. After all, you're on a trip. You want to show Ashley only the good parts, right? But sorry, the card you took is no longer valid, so you'll have to manage. What? What are you talking about, Alexa? What card? Pretending not to know won't help. You're panicking too much. That's because you're saying things that don't make sense. I don't know anything about a card. Enough. I already know you've been cheating on me with my best friend, Ashley. What? Did you really think I had no idea? Are you kidding me? It's obvious. No, it's not what you think. I'm not cheating. I was so angry that my husband was still trying to deny everything. Ignoring my brother and son who were next to me, I unleashed all the pent-up fury. Stop making excuses. You had a family and you cheated with another woman. And to top it off, using someone else's card. Do you even realize how despicable your actions are? Alexa, let's calm down for a moment. Huh? How can I stay calm dealing with the person I despise the most in the world? And just so you know, I have no intention of forgiving you or helping you. You and that woman can go to hell for all I care. Never show your face to Drake and me again. With that, I hung up on my husband. Then his mistress Ashley called me. Hey Alexa, what the hell did you do? Ashley, long time no see. How's the trip with my husband? Shut up. Explain yourself. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. You sent Austin's belongings to my house, didn't you? Indeed, when we moved, I sent my husband's belongings to Ashley's address. But Ashley, being married herself, naturally has her husband at home. That's exactly why I sent all of Austin's belongings to her house, along with a detailed letter explaining everything. She screamed at me over the phone, her voice breaking. This is not a joke. What did he do? My husband found out, and now he's furious. Well, you brought this upon yourself by having an affair while married. You were supposed to be my friend. This is betrayal. You're the worst. I misjudged you. Excuse me? That's rich coming from you. My best friend was having an affair with my husband. How could I forgive that? Who was rude first, huh? I didn't mean it seriously. It was just a joke. I would never actually be interested in someone like him. I don't care if it was a joke or not. I'm filing for divorce anyway. You did have an affair. That's a fact. I'll never forgive you. I'll be seeking significant compensation, so be prepared. Compensation? What are you talking about? I didn't agree to anything like that. Well, you're going to hear about it. It's what you deserve. Wait, I'm a housewife. I can't pay any compensation. I don't care. Figure it out yourself or ask your husband. Although, I doubt that will work. Oh wait, Alexa. Hey, wait. Goodbye. I hung up without listening to her and blocked her number. Later, I finalized my divorce through my lawyer and pursued compensation from my ex-husband and Ashley. Along with child support, I demanded repayment for the credit card charges he made without my consent. After paying the compensation, Ashley's husband demanded a divorce due to the debts, and she was kicked out of their home. She tried to seek refuge with her parents, but they turned her away given the circumstances. With nowhere else to go, Ashley now lives where she works and takes up night shifts at a bar. Austin also tried to lean on Ashley, but she was furious with him for causing her divorce. She promptly ended their relationship. Currently, Austin is juggling several part-time jobs and barely making ends meet. His prolonged unemployment has made it challenging for him to secure stable employment. If Austin ever falls behind on his alimony or child support payments, I intend to pursue him for what's owed, no matter what. As for me, I'm enjoying a peaceful life in our new home with my son. He's growing remarkably, and each day brings new excitement. My focus now is on giving him all the love and stability he deserves, ensuring he never experiences sadness like that again.